It was supposed to be an exciting milestone for Lisa and her husband, James. A romantic getaway to the Swiss Alps, a place they had always dreamed of visiting. They had boarded the plane that morning, full of hope, despite the weather forecasters predicting an impending snowstorm. As the plane soared above the clouds, the storm worsened and turbulence rocked the cabin. The pilot announced over the intercom that they would need to make an unscheduled landing due to a severe whiteout at their destination. The situation unsettled many passengers, and Lisa clung to James's hand for reassurance. But James, ever the charming conversationalist, had spent much of the flight chatting with the flight attendant, a blonde woman named Vanessa. Lisa, initially brushing it off as his usual friendliness, tried to relax. However, her unease grew as she noticed their interactions becoming more flirtatious, with James leaning in closer and Vanessa laughing at his jokes. When the plane finally landed at a small regional airport due to the storm, the passengers were told they'd have to wait for hours before they could resume their journey. The airport was remote and accommodations were scarce. The airline arranged for the passengers to rest in a lounge. Lisa decided to take a nap, exhausted from the turbulent flight and tension. When she woke, James was nowhere to be found. Worried, she searched the lounge, but he was gone. A sinking feeling crept into her chest as she remembered Vanessa's sly smiles earlier on the plane. After wandering through the airport, Lisa found James in a secluded corner near the staff rooms, laughing quietly with Vanessa. His body language was unmistakable. His arm grazed hers, and their faces were too close for comfort. The intimacy of their conversation hit Lisa like a punch to the stomach. She confronted him on the spot, her voice trembling but firm. "What are you doing, James?" Vanessa stepped back, feigning surprise, but James stammered, "Lisa, it's not what it looks like." "It never is it?" she retorted, her eyes welling with tears. Without waiting for an explanation, Lisa stormed off, leaving James scrambling after her. For the rest of their delay, the atmosphere between them was icy, colder than the whiteout outside. Lisa knew their marriage might not survive the trip, and James's betrayal would haunt their once perfect memories of the Alps. By the time the plane was ready to depart, Lisa had made up her mind. She'd go to the Alps. But James wouldn't be part of her journey anymore. As the plane finally resumed its journey, the tension between Lisa and James was palpable. Lisa refused to speak to him, her eyes fixed on the window as the snow-covered landscape rolled by beneath them. James, sensing her determination, remained quiet, though his occasional glances toward her betrayed his guilt. When they arrived at the Swiss Alps, Lisa checked into their hotel, but only for herself. She had already decided to book James a separate room. "We need space," she told him coldly. "I'll figure things out after this trip, but right now, I need time to think." James, visibly ashamed, tried to protest. "Lisa, it was a moment of stupidity. I was just being friendly." "Friendly?" She cut him off. "I saw you, James. That wasn't friendly. You've crossed a line, and I'm not sure I can forgive you for it." The next few days were a mix of beauty and heartbreak for Lisa. The Alps were as stunning as she had imagined, with pristine white slopes and cozy chalets. But her heart was heavy, weighed down by betrayal. She spent her days skiing, exploring, and taking in the breathtaking scenery alone, trying to process her emotions. James, meanwhile, kept his distance but left notes at her door each night. Each note was a heartfelt apology, begging for another chance and promising he'd never stray again. But Lisa couldn't bring herself to read them all, much less respond. She was done with empty words. One evening, as Lisa sat by the hotel's fireplace, a fellow traveler named Adrian struck up a conversation with her. He was a kind-hearted photographer in the Alps to capture the winter landscapes. His easy smile and genuine interest in her story made Lisa feel something she hadn't felt in years: seen and valued. Over the next few days, Lisa found herself spending more time with Adrian. They laughed, shared stories, and marveled at the beauty of the mountains together. With him, Lisa began to remember what it felt like to be appreciated and respected. James noticed the change and confronted her on the last night of their trip. "Lisa, who is he? I see the way you've been smiling at him." She met his gaze unflinching. "Adrian is someone who reminded me of what I deserve: honesty and respect. Something you failed to give me." James looked stricken, but Lisa didn't waver. "I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this: I deserve better. Maybe you should think about why you didn't value what you had before it was too late." When their flight home arrived, Lisa boarded the plane with clarity. She wasn't sure where life would take her, but she knew one thing for certain: her journey of self-worth had just begun, and James would no longer be a part of it. Back in their hometown, Lisa and James returned to the house that now felt like a shell of what it once was. Lisa moved her things into the guest bedroom, signaling her decision to create distance. James attempted to rekindle their bond, offering to attend couples counseling, but Lisa was resolute. "I need time, James," she said firmly. "Not promises or quick fixes. Time to figure out if there's anything left worth salvaging." James reluctantly agreed, but couldn't hide his growing desperation. He began showering her with gifts and gestures, but Lisa saw them for what they were: attempts to mask a deeper issue. She had spent years ignoring her own needs in favor of keeping their marriage afloat, and now she refused to settle for less. Lisa also couldn't stop thinking about Adrian. Their time in the Alps had been brief but meaningful. He had given her his contact information before they parted ways, and she found herself looking at his number more often than she cared to admit. She hadn't reached out yet. Something about the way Adrian had treated her, with respect and genuine interest, lingered in her mind like a faint melody. One day, while sorting through James's things in the house, Lisa stumbled upon his phone. It wasn't something she usually did, but a nagging curiosity got the better of her. What she found confirmed her worst fears. There were messages from Vanessa, the flight attendant, dating back months before the plane ride. They were flirty, suggestive, and undeniably inappropriate. Lisa confronted James that evening, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "You lied to me. It wasn't just a one-time thing on the plane. You've been talking to her for months." James froze, guilt washing over his face. "Lisa, I didn't mean for it to go that far. It was stupid. I wasn't thinking." "No," she interrupted, her voice rising. "You were thinking. You made a choice over and over again to betray me. And now I'm making mine." That night, Lisa packed a bag and left the house. She checked into a nearby hotel, feeling a mix of fear and liberation. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew she couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. Alone in her hotel room, Lisa finally dialed Adrian's number. Her heart raced as the phone rang, unsure of what she was even hoping for. "Hello." Adrian's voice was warm and familiar. "Hi, it's Lisa," she said, her voice steadier than she expected. I needed someone to talk to." Adrian didn't hesitate. "I'm here. Tell me everything." For the first time in months, Lisa felt a glimmer of hope. She wasn't sure if Adrian would become a larger part of her life, but she knew she was finally putting herself first. It was a new beginning, and for the first time in years, Lisa felt free to choose her own path. Over the following weeks, Lisa began to rebuild her life. Staying in the hotel gave her the space she needed to reflect and plan her next steps. She met with a lawyer to discuss her options for a divorce, and though the process seemed daunting, she felt a sense of empowerment taking control of her future. James called and messaged frequently, alternating between apologizing and begging for another chance. Lisa responded only when necessary, keeping things strictly practical. She wasn't angry anymore, just done. Meanwhile, her conversations with Adrian became more frequent. What started as occasional calls turned into daily check-ins. Adrian was a good listener, never pushing her to share more than she was ready for, but always offering thoughtful advice and encouragement. His calm presence became a steadying force in her life. One evening, Adrian invited Lisa to visit him. He lived a few hours away in a quaint town known for its art scene and picturesque views. Hesitant at first, Lisa eventually decided to go. I need this, she thought to herself. Not for him, for me. When she arrived, Adrian greeted her with his characteristic warmth. He had planned a simple day, a walk through the local art galleries, lunch at a charming cafe, and a stroll along the river. They talked about everything, her past, his career, and their shared love of travel. With Adrian, Lisa felt no pressure, only a sense of ease she hadn't experienced in years. That evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the water, Adrian turned to her. Lisa, I know you've been through a lot, and I don't want to rush you, but I hope you know that I admire your strength. And I'll be here, no matter what you decide. Lisa smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in a long time. Thank you, Adrian. That means more than you know. When Lisa returned to her hotel, she felt a shift within herself. Adrian wasn't a savior or a distraction. He was a reminder of what she deserved. Whether their connection grew into something more or remained a friendship, Lisa knew she had already won by rediscovering her worth. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. Lisa moved into her own apartment, a cozy space filled with light and hope. She continued to travel, something she had always loved but had put on hold during her marriage. Her trips weren't about running away. They were about exploring the world and herself. Adrian remained in her life, and their bond deepened naturally. They didn't rush things, letting their connection grow at its own pace. For Lisa, love wasn't about filling a void anymore. It was about choosing someone who respected her and added joy to her already full life. As she stood on the balcony of her new apartment one evening, looking out at the city lights, Lisa reflected on how far she had come. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and uncertainty, but she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to live life on her own terms. And this time, she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving.